My name is Zhang Wei, 27 years old, a very ordinary guy, who has been boring from 9 to 5 days. It was not until 3 months ago that you died and left me with a bunch of old things that my life was finally overturned. That day, I rummaged through boxes and cabinets in my bookroom in my house and found a book that was almost broken. The cover was written with 4 words: Diary of Discovery, with a hairpin. The words were so powerful that it seemed to jump out of the paper. I flipped it open with my hands full of Ching's pens, recording his young adventures. There is a crazy thought in the line between the words, which talks about a place called Golden City. It is said to be hidden in the deepest part of the rainforest, full of gold and hiding, but it is also full of fatal traps and curses. On the last few pages of the diary, you wrote, "I finally couldn't find it, but the trace is in this diary. If anyone sees it, please complete this unsuccessful journey for me." My heart beats like a drumbeat, and my hands are shaking. The city of Golden? It sounds like a fish in the sky at night, but the unwillingness and desire in the words seem to be directly diamonding into my brain. I closed the diary and there was only one thought in my brain: I want to find it. I want to prove that there are risk genes flowing in Zhang's blood, and not everyone can look down on it. That night, I called my best friend Chenghan. This guy is the dead party I played with since childhood, and my body is as good as a bison. After several years of soldiers, I was very agile. As soon as I said the diary, he made a decision without saying that: "Let's go. Brother will accompany you. No matter whether it is gold or a ghost town, let's join us." A month later, we slapped the equipment and boarded the aircraft flying to South America, aiming directly at the hot rainforest that had not been touched by civilization. After the plane landed, we turned around for a few more days and finally stepped into the green forest that could swallow people. The air was as hot as a steamed pot, and the surroundings were full of trees, with crowns covering the sky in sunlight, and the sun could not be brought in. There are thick rotten leaves under the feet, which are soft when stepped on as if they are on cotton. You can still hear the low growls of unknown wild animals. "William, this place is very evil." Chenghan carried his backpack, wiped the sweat from his face, and his eyes were swollen. "I always think something is staring at us." "Don't scare yourself. We have maps and traces. What are we afraid of?" I patted the diary on my chest and put it on the customs. "Actually, I feel tired in my heart, but I can't recognize it in my mouth." In the diary, a rough map was drawn on the first page of Ubay, labeling the starting point, which was the entrance to the Miscus Deep in purple, and the first door to the Golden City. We have to find that place first. On the evening of the first day, we were running by a stream. As the night falls, the sounds in the forest become even more strange. The birds are mixed together, as if countless eyes are gaze in the dark. Chenghan clicked a bonfire, and the firelight shone around the trees, making the atmosphere even more intense. I looked through the diary with my head down, trying to find some useful information, which read, "On the first night, beware of the forest guards, they do not welcome outsiders." The forest guard? What's the thing? I said to myself, my eyebrows were so hard that I could suck my hair. "William, don't watch it. Let's sleep for a while, I'll watch the night." Chenghan leaned against the tree, holding a dagger in his hand, his eyes half clear. I just clicked and was about to lie down. Suddenly, the bushes beside the bonfire slammed, as if something had passed. My heart beat fast as if it was about to explode. Chenghan also stood up suddenly, held the dagger tightly, and shouted in a low voice, "Who is there?" Before we could react, several black shadows emerged from the bushes, as fast as ghosts. They were wearing old clay leather clothes, covered in strange oil paint, holding long spears and bows in their hands, their eyes as cold as if they could hold people away. The man in charge is tall and has a scar from his brow bone to his chin on his face, which makes people breathless. He yelled a few words in a language he didn't understand, and then opened his mouth in stiff English: "Outsider, leave here, otherwise, die." I felt nervous, but I was dissatisfied with my mouth. I stood up and stared at him. "We are just passing by and don't want to cause trouble." "Who are you? Why should we leave?" The man sneered, and his scars looked even more in the firelight. I am Boyu, the owner of this forest. You greedy guys are coming to find the Golden City, right? Tell you that no one can step in there, all you go in is a dead end. The City of Golden? How did this guy know? As soon as my brain turned, Lima thought of the forest guardians in the diary, and most of them were these people. I suppressed my panic and replied in a deliberate manner, our business has nothing to do with you, don't worry about it. Boya narrowed his eyes and waved his hands. Several people behind him pulled out their bows and arrows, facing us. Qinghan whispered, damn it, it's true. My brain was flying and moving at a speed. It would definitely not work hard. There were many people on the other side and the weapons were strange. We were just alone. How could we hit the fight with bare hands? I lowered my head and glanced at the terrain under my feet. The soil was moist and there were a few large stones beside it. I suddenly had an idea in my heart. I quietly touched Qinghan with the tip of my foot, signaled him not to move, and then said to Boyu, okay, let's go. But you have to tell me first, what's the secret of the Golden City that is worth your desperate efforts? Boyu snorted coldly, obviously disdaining to answer, but a young guy behind him couldn't help but speak, that's the holy land of our ancestors, you outsiders will only bring disaster. While their attention was distracted, I suddenly slammed my waist, grabbed a stone with a big fist on my foot, and smashed it hard at the bush behind Boyu. The stone hit the tree with a bang and made a huge noise, which made several night birds fly up and make a harsh scream. The guys holding bows and arrows shook instinctively, and the arrow turned in the direction. Run! I shouted, pulled Qinghan and rushed to the stream. Boyu reacted quickly and roared and took people to catch up, but the mud on the stream was slid so hard that they slipped as soon as they stepped on it, and the speed was slow. Qinghan and I took advantage of the terrain advantages, avoided left and right, and quickly opened the distance. William, where to run? Qinghan panted and ran to ask. Upstream. The diary says the mist is deep and purified in the water source. I gritted my teeth and replied, my brain full of tags on the map. Behind him, Boyu's roar became more and more distant, but his steps were still silent. After running for about 10 minutes, we finally rushed to a cliff, and in front of us was a small waterfall. The water flowed down from a high point and made a sound of rushing birds. The water fog was lying on it, as if it had covered the entire forest with a layer of white scent. I gasped, wiped the water from my face, looked down and saw that I could see a huge deep penis under the cliff, like a huge mouth, which was invisible. That's it. The fog is so purr. I was so excited that I almost shouted out, and turned to Qinghan, we have to keep going. This is the first step to the Golden City. Qinghan looked at the dark purity and his face turned green. Down? Why? Isn't you seeking death if you jump down? I didn't have time to explain it, so I took out my diary and turned to a page, which read, there are ancient vines next to the deep purplish, which can help climb, but be careful of poison hiding in the vines. I pointed to a pile of thick vines on the cliff and said to Qinghan, use this. Hurry, Boyu and the others are about to catch up. Qinghan gritted his teeth and pointed, okay, I'll fight. We used our hands and grabbed the vines and started climbing down. The vines were so slid that they felt like they were slipping when they tried hard. The body was still broken by spikes, which hurt so much. But behind him, Boyu's roar was getting closer and closer, and we couldn't stand the slightest bit of hesitation. Halfway through the climb, there was a sneer coming from above, want to run? It's not that easy. I looked up and saw Boyu's scarred face appearing on the cliff. He held a knife in his hand and slashed at the vine we were holding. Damn! Qinghan shouted and climbed down faster. My heart was so fast that I was about to explode, and there was only one thought in my brain, I can't die here. Just a second before the vines were cut off, I saw a raised stone platform below, and Rima shouted, Qinghan, jump. At the same time, we relaxed our hands and smashed it hard on the stone platform. Although we fell to 7 or 8 sides, we did not fall into the deep. I lay on the stone platform, panting heavily, and raised my head to see Boyu looking at us angry on the cliff, looking like he wanted to eat people. He shouted, you can't escape. The city of Golden is not a place you can touch. I grinned and pushed him into a middle finger. If you have the ability, come down, brother is waiting for you. Boyu was so angry that his face was twisted, but he obviously didn't jump off and could only take someone away. Chenhan and I looked at each other and laughed out loud. Although our bodies hurt so much, the pleasure in our hearts was so refreshing. William, that's the trick just now. I smashed the tree with a stone, haha. Chenhan patted my shoulder, smiling. Wait, can you run away? I rolled my eyes, got up and patted the soil on my body, looking at the deep and clear bottom, with a calm look. This is just the beginning, the Golden City, I'm here. Chenhan and I were lying on the stone platform, just snatching him from Boyu's helping killing. Although his body felt as if he had fallen apart, the feeling of thrilling in my heart had not yet dissipated. The water fog is lying in the deep impurity, and there is only the sound of the water flowing silence, and occasionally there are a few low birds of unknown birds. I gasped for a few breaths, got up and patted the mud on my body, took out my diary, and turned to the next page with my head low. William, what's going on next? It's dark and tingling underneath, how can I go down? Chenhan leaned against the stone wall, wiped the sweat from his face, and there was something inconclusive in his eyes. I glanced at him and grinned. How to go? Of course, I continue to search for the trace. The diary said that the mist and deep purity is the first door to the Golden City. After passing this, there should be a clearer instruction. I lowered my head and pointed to a passage on the diary and said, the bottom of the deep purity is like thunder, and the torrent covers the truth, only the brave can see the secret of ancient stones. This means, we have to go to the place where the sound of water is the greatest. After Chenhan heard this, his face turned green. The sound of water is like thunder? Isn't that a waterfall? Can we withstand a small body? You have to carry it even if you can't bear it. I patted his shoulder and made a strong decision. Since Yubei wrote this sentence, there must be a way. Let's go, don't be so tired, Boyu may catch up with you at any time. We packed up our equipment and fumbled down carefully along the side of the stone platform. The air in the deep and clean air was biting cold, and the water became more and more dense, and the video could only see at most a few meters away in front. The stone under the foot was slid so hard that it would fall down if you accidentally stepped on the air. My heart beat like a drumbeat, my palms were covered in sweat, but I still gritted my teeth and moved forward. Chenhan walked in front of me, and turned around and pulled me back, and still complained, William, you are too furious to explore the family, why don't you see your ancestral skills show power? Stop talking. I replied without any worries, when I find the Golden City, see how I block your mouth. We walked down our mouths and for about half an hour, the sound of water became louder and louder, making our ears buzzing. Finally, after turning over a stone wall, my eyes suddenly opened up. A waterfall of thousands of feet appeared in front of us. The water flowed down from the top of the cliff that was hundreds of meters high, like a silver-white giant screen, hitting the deep pool below. The water fog was several 10 meters high. The sunlight passed through the water fog and reflected colorful light, which was so shocking that I couldn't speak. Damn, this is too awesome. Chenhan stood beside me, his eyes straightened. If I were torn down, I wouldn't even be able to find my bones. I swallowed, and my heart was also irritated, but I still said, don't worry, I said the torrent covers the truth. The truth must be behind this waterfall. We have to find a way to go. Past? How did you go? Swimming? Chenhan rolled his eyes, his language full of doubts. I ignored him and looked down at him and found that there was a narrow stone on the left side of the waterfall, which could barely allow a person to pass through. Although it was extremely slippery by the water flow, it was at least safer than passing through the waterfall directly. I pointed to the path and said, look at that, we should be able to go behind the waterfall from this past. Chenhan looked in the direction of my finger and his face became even more difficult. William, are you sure? The road is slippery like ice, and if it falls, it will be dead. I don't have to choose, try it. I gritted my teeth and took the lead in stepping on the stone. As soon as I stepped on it, the cold stone surface made me tremble. the water flowed down from the top and instantly poured me into a soup chicken. I stood on the stone wall and moved my steps carefully, and each step was like dancing on the tip of a knife. Qinghan followed me, his mouth stooped, but his hands didn't stop. We walked away for a few meters, and suddenly a strong wind shaved from the deep penis and slapped directly on my face with a fog. The force almost overturned me. My feet slipped down, and my body was unbalanced in an instant. I leaned back and was about to fall into the deep pool. A flash of my heart, and there was only one thought in my brain: it's over. William! Qinghan shouted, grabbed my wrist quickly with his eyes and pulled me back with force. My whole person hit the stone wall, grinning in pain, but at least I didn't fall down. Thank you, brother. I gasped and smiled. You are so capable that you are not a human being. Stop talking, go quickly. Qinghan pushed me with no aura and urged, if you don't move, come on again, we have to explain this. I clicked the head, suppressed the panic in my heart, and continued to move forward. The stone became narrower and narrower, and the water flow was brushing harder, and every step seemed to be catching the death of the god of death. The sound of the waterfall shocked my brain and my body was soaked in cold water that I almost didn't realize it. I gritted my teeth, and there was only one thought in my brain: I can't stop. If I stop, I will die. Finally, when we were about to collapse, we passed through the stones and came to a clearing ground behind the waterfall. It is separated by water, like a natural hiding place, surrounded by cold stone walls, and water is filled with water, but at least you don't have to worry about being wiped away. I sat on the ground, gasping for breath, and felt like my whole portrait was exhausted. Have we been here? Qinghan also sat down, wiped the water from his face, and couldn't believe it in his voice. Come here. I looked around and found that there were about a few blurry marks on the stone walls that were not far away, as if they were carved out by hand. I climbed up and walked over and saw that it was indeed an ancient stone tablet. The stone tablet is about 1 person tall, with a hole in the surface being brushed by water flowing, but there are some strange symbols engraved on it, and there is a line of vague words next to it. My heart beat faster and I quickly took out my diary and followed the notes above. Qinghan, come here quickly. I shouted excitedly, this stone tablet is the secret of ancient stone mentioned in the diary. Qinghan Feng came over and asked, what's written here? I can't understand it. I looked down at the diary and found that the symbols on the steel were exactly the same as the pattern in the diary. In my diary, you said, the secret of ancient stones is hidden after the torrent. The symbol is the direction guide. If you uncover it, you can know the next journey. I pointed to the symbol on the stone tablet and said, this is a directional mark, telling us where to go next. I carefully studied it and found that there was an arrow-like pattern in the symbol, pointing to the northeast direction. Although the text next to it was vague, I could hardly recognize several keywords: poison swamp and black forest. My heart was shocked. Poisonous swamp? Black forest? It doesn't sound like a good place, but this is probably the next stop to the Golden City. Qinghan, there is a direction, and to the northeast, it should be a scattered land. I closed the diary and looked calm. We have to continue. Qinghan pointed his head, although his face was not very good-looking, but he still didn't respond. Okay, I'll hear you. But this place is too evil, so we have to be careful. We took a break and prepared to leave the clearing behind this waterfall. After walking for a few steps, I suddenly heard a deep footstep that was coming from afar, as if someone was approaching. I felt nervous and said to Qinghan in a low voice, no, someone is here. Qinghan's ear moved, and he squatted down, signaling me not to make a sound. We hid behind the stone wall and quietly looked at it. It turned out that it was Boyu who was carrying his tribe's subordinates. They were about 7 or 8 people, holding long spears and bows in their hands, and were exploring along the stones beside the waterfall. Boyu's scar face looked particularly stunning in the water fog. He whispered to his subordinates, they can't run far, there must be a hiding place behind the waterfall, look for it. My heart beats so fast that it's about to explode, and my brain is flying rapidly. It is definitely not possible to fight hard. There are many people on the other side. We just experienced the break in the waterfall, and our strength can't keep up. You have to find a way to kill yourself. I lowered my head and glanced at the terrain around my eyes. I found that there were a few pieces of gravel that were blown down by water, and some scattered dead branches. I suddenly had an idea in my heart. "Chenghan, come with me," I said in a slight voice, pulling him to the stone wall on the other side. I lifted up a few pieces of gravel, grabbed a handful of dead branches, quickly climbed behind a raised stone, and threw the gravel towards the opposite side of the waterfall. The stone hit the stone wall opposite, making a bang-bang sound, and the dead branches were scattered everywhere by the flow of water, which was quite quiet. Boyu and the others were indeed attracted by the attention, and Lima turned his head and looked in the direction of the sound. He growled, "Catch it up." He led the person over and ran away, his feet stuttering in a mess. "Go away." I took the opportunity to pull Chenghan, quietly rolled from the other side, and moved quickly along the stone wall. We held our breath, used our hands and ran for a few hundred meters in one breath, until we couldn't hear Boyu and the others' silence, and then we dared to stop and take a breath. "William, your brain is really good." Chenghan patted my shoulder, laughing so hard that he couldn't breathe. "Take a few stones and cheat them away, haha." "Right, brain movements are more labor-saving than exercise." I grinned. Although I was so tired that I felt like I was falling apart, the feeling of pleasure in my heart was so simple. Being able to escape from Boya's helper again felt like he slapped them hard. We took a short break, and after confirming safety, we began to move northeast. The sound of the waterfall was gradually fading away, and there was a smell of soil and rot in the air, and the ground under the feet was getting lower and lower, as if entering the swamp belt. I looked down at the diary, and I felt a bad feeling in my heart. Poisonous swamps and black forests are not good places to hear, so next, there are even greater troubles waiting for us. But, don't care. The Golden City is right in front of me, and I, Zhang Wei, will not retreat whether it is natural threat or Boyu's pursuit. I have to complete my wish. Moreover, the surprise and excitement along the way made me realize more and more that I was born to be an explorer. "Chenghan, let's go, the poisonous swamp is waiting for us." I patted my backpack, and started to take a step, with my eyes full of anticipation. Chenghan followed me and muttered, "The poisonous swamp." I felt my head hurts when I heard it. "Wife, don't take me to dance anymore." I laughed and didn't answer, but my heart had already started to calculate how to walk the next path so that I could get closer to the Golden City as mentioned faster. Chenghan and I escaped from the stone wall open space behind the waterfall and headed northeast. The ground under our feet became lower and lower. The clear smell of the waterfall in the air was gradually replaced by a stinky smell of soil and rotten. The trees around were becoming more and more sparse, and the ground turned into a muddy ground. When you step on it, you could swallow people in any time. We walked with a deep and slight foot, our bodies were soaked with moisture and sweat, and our fatigue was slapped in waves like waves. "William, why are you getting more and more evil in this place?" Chenghan wiped the sweat from his face and looked around his eyebrows. "You see this fog, it's so thick that it's like milk, and you can't see anything clearly. We won't go wrong, right?" I lowered my head and glanced at the diary in my hand. The map painted by Yui was marked with 2 words, poisonous swamp. The direction should be right, but I began to wonder in my heart. The deep and purified fog was already full. Now that I entered this swampy land, my visual line was even worse. At most, I could see 2 or 3 meters away in front. At least I could not tell anything about white and white. A few bubbles appear in the mud under the feet from time to time, emitting a pungent smell, making people feel irritated. It should be right. I wrote that the poisonous swamp is the only way to the Black Forest. Passing the Black Forest is the next stop in the Golden City. I snatched my mouth, and tried to make myself and Chenghan feel at ease. "Let's walk around and see, maybe the fog in front will dissipate." Chenghan curled his lips and didn't answer, but his eyes were obviously dissatisfied. We continued to move forward, and after about an hour, the smoke not only did not dissipate, but became even more intense. The surroundings were so quiet that they could not even hear the birds shouting, and only the sound of foot stomping on the mud was rumbling around our ears. I felt more and more uneasy in my heart, and I felt like I was trapped in a huge mist, so I was so stressed that I was almost breathless. "William, stop!" Chenghan suddenly grabbed me, and there was a fire in his voice. "Looking at this terrain, have we just walked past this tree? I remember there is a bird nest on the root of this tree, and it is still there now. Let's turn in place." I looked in the direction of his finger and found that it was indeed a twisted old tree. There was indeed an old bird nest next to the tree root, as if it had been gnawed by something. My heart sank, and I just looked down at the road, not paying attention to the surrounding environment. Now, I look at it, this place looks very familiar. I can't do it. I'm following the direction of the diary. I browsed and turned on the diary to confirm again, but my heart began to move. The mist is too heavy, and the sense of direction has long been messed up, so I might be really wrong. Direction? Wei Zi, you're not sure. Chenghan's temperament became even more intense, his face was blue. "We have been in this ghost place for several hours, but we haven't found anything. Now we can't tell the difference. Just relying on this broken diary, can you really find the Golden City? Don't end up spending your life." When I heard him, the fire came up, staring at him and replied, "What do you mean? Don't believe me, did you come with me? This diary was left for you, and the thread must be correct. Now it's just a little bit bigger, so you start to feel jealous? Haven?" Chenghan glared and his voice raised a lot. "My mother is afraid that you will take yourself. No matter how good my strength is, I can't stand it and wander around in this broken place. I have repeatedly encountered Boya's helper. How can we run away? We were talking, and we had a red face and thick neck, and no one would let our steps. The air is filled with a heavy flaming smell, as if it can be fried at any time." I knew in my heart that Chenghan was doing my best, but I couldn't pull my face off. After all, I was always on the head. Now that I was suspected, I felt like I was slapped in the face. "Okay, you're so bad, what do you think?" I gritted my teeth, stuffed the diary back into my bag, and stared at Chenghan. "Or come and lead the way, don't follow me and mutter." Chenghan sneered and was about to open his mouth, but suddenly there was a slight sound coming from afar, like the gurgling sound of footsteps stomping on mud. We closed our mouths at the same time, and the policeman looked up. Chenghan said in a low voice, "Someone." I squatted down tightly, hid behind a short shrub, held my breath and looked in the direction of the sound. A figure slowly walked out of the mist, his steps were as light as a cat, and he almost didn't show any static. The man was wearing a dark cloak, a broken hood on his head, his face was covered with seriousness, holding a wooden stick in his hand, and there were a few small objects that could not be seen clearly on the head of the stick. We didn't dare to show off our anger, and we guessed in our hearts whether this person was an enemy or a friend. The man walked to a place about 10 meters away from us and stopped, and his face under his hood was slightly raised, as if he was looking around. I was surprised in my heart, and I looked at Chenghan at a glance, and my brain flew quickly. This sound doesn't sound like Boyu's helping others, but it can't be sure that the other party is not malicious. Chenghan asked in a low voice, "What should I do? Do you show my head?" I thought about it, gritted my teeth and said, "Look at what she is coming first, don't be tempted." I cleared my throat and tried to snore. "Who are you? Are you following us?" The woman smiled lightly, and there was a little mockery in her voice. "Follow you? This swamp is my floor, you are the outsiders. Let's say, what are you going to fuck the poisonous swamp? Are you looking for death or Baozan?" When I heard this, I felt more alert, but I didn't show any weakness. "Our affairs have nothing to do with you. If you are not malicious, don't let the way." The woman did not reply again, but lifted her hood to reveal a cold face. Her skin was a bit abnormal, her facial features were as if it was carved by a knife, and there was a stream of Sams in her eyes that could not be described, as if she could see through people. She glanced at us and said lightly, "I am Ning Xian, the admiration of this forest. You are lost, right? Going forward, the miasma in the poisonous swamp can make you die without leaving your bones. When I heard this name, I felt that this woman was not simple. Although the language she spoke was cold, it seemed to have no intention. Qinghan muttered in my ear with a low voice, "Will this person know that we are lost? Do you trust?" Instead of answering, I stood up and tried to ask, "Since you are advising, can you take us out? We won't be in vain, we can pay you." Ming Xian sneered slightly, as if she heard a joke. "Reward? I don't lack your stuff. However, I can help you leave the poisonous swamp, but there is a condition. Show me the diary in your hand." My heart tightened and Lima tightened her backpack. "This diary is the only trace left by Yulai. How can it be read at will? But the current situation is really unhappy, the smoke is getting thicker, and the mud under the feet is becoming more and more dangerous. If you continue to walk around, you will probably fall into this." I hesitated for a moment and asked, "How do you know I have a diary? Also, do you see this thing fucking?" Ming Xian's eyes flashed and she said lightly, "There are many secrets hidden in this forest. You outsiders came in with old things, just for the Golden City. I have seen too many people like you, and none of them can go back alive. I know more about the things in the diary than you." Her words shocked me. This woman really knew the Golden City. And hearing what she means is like studying the content of the diary. I gritted my teeth, took out the attitude of trusting and protecting half, and said, "Okay, I can show you, but you have to take us out of this ghost place first." Ming Xian clicked the head and left without saying much, indicating that we should follow. Her pace was very fast, as if she knew this swampy land well, and she stepped on every step with a steady step, and she was not afraid of getting lost. Qinghan and I looked at each other, and although we were still wondering, we still followed. After about half an hour of walking, the smoke began to fade and the surrounding scene became clearer. The mud under the feet became a little more solid, and the smell in the air was not so pungent. Ming Xian took us to a drier slope and pointed to the front and said, "Walking north from here, you will be a black forest after passing the poisonous swamp, and the road will be easier. However, the danger in the black forest is no less than that, you can weigh it yourself." I was very impressed by her ability, but I still didn't give up my guard completely. I took out my diary, looked at several pages related to the poisonous swamp, and sent it to her. "Okay, you can see after you have finished taking the road, right now, right?" Ming Xian received the diary and glanced down for a few times, with a strange light flashing in her eyes. She pointed to several symbols on one page and said, "This is the text of the ancient tribe. It records the miasma rules of the poisonous swamp, and a hidden path in the black forest. If you hadn't been me, you would have been poisoned to death." She turned to the pattern on another page and added, "This picture points to a sacrificial deep in the black forest, which is said to be the gate of the Golden City, but the specific details are not clear." I was surprised when I heard this woman really understands it, and she can read the symbols in her diary. But the way she said it always made me feel unfavorable, as if I was hiding something. I tried to ask, "You know so much, why don't you go to find the Golden City by yourself? Are you still advising here?" Ming Xian gave me the diary and her eyes turned cold. "I can't, ask me about my business. It's a good idea to help you, don't be more careful." Her attitude made me even more suspicious. This woman helped us to leave the poisonous squash and read diaries. On the surface, it seemed to be a good intention, but she always thought she had a different purpose. I didn't ask anymore, I kept my diary and planned to calm her down before saying it. Qinghan interrupted at this time, "William, we are just fighting so fiercely. Now that people help us, we have to say thank you." His temperament is a little reconciliation, which is obviously a conflict between trying to calm down and just now. I clicked the head and smiled hard. "Thank you, Ming Xian. It's just that I'm too anxious and can't tell the direction." Ming Xian didn't answer this, but just turned around and prepared to leave. But at this moment, a rapid pace suddenly came from far away, accompanied by a low roar, as if Boyu's helper had caught up with him again. I felt a tight heart in my heart and said in a low voice, "No, it's them again." Qinghan Lima entered the battle state, clenched the dagger in his hand, staring at the direction of the sound. Ming Xian sniffed her eyebrows, without saying anything, but she didn't leave, as if she was planning to see what we should do. In the smoke, Boya rushed out with 7 or 8 subordinates. Their faces were covered with oil paint, and they held long spears and bows in their hands, swaying. Boya's scar face looked particularly stunning in the fog. When he saw us, Lima roared, "You can't escape. You dare to go to the poisonous swamp, just seeking death." I gritted my teeth and said to Cheng Han in a low voice, "You can't fight hard, just drag it out for a while and find a chance to run." Cheng Han pointed his head, his muscles were tight, and he was ready to move at any time. Boya didn't give us enough time. With a swing of his hand, his subordinate Rima rushed up and several arrows shot over. Cheng Han and I hid behind the dirt slope, and the arrows flew over and pierced into the mud, making a deep sound. There are many people on the other side, and we have no strength to help and can only be defended. "William, this is not an option." Cheng Han gritted his teeth, avoided a spear's attack, and roared, "If we don't fight back, we will be exhausted." My brain flew quickly and glanced at Ning Xian next to me, and found that she was just watching coldly, and she had no intention of helping her. My heart was full of anger, but I didn't have time to think about it. Lima said to Cheng Han, "You stay here, I'll find a chance to go." Cheng Han suddenly rushed out of the soil slope and rushed to the nearest enemy. The guy didn't react and was kicked over by Cheng Han and his long spear flew out. Cheng Han successfully lifted up his long spear, danced hard, forcing the 2 close enemies to retreat. His strength and speed completely exploded, like a wild beast, and his roar shocked the other party for a moment. "Come on! Who dares to get on?" Cheng Han roared angrily, and another spear stabbed an enemy's shoulder. The man fell to the ground with a cry of indignation, and the blood instantly dyed the soil. His explosion directly quarreled the other party's rhythm, and Boya's face became even more difficult to see, and he roared and surrounded Cheng Han. I took the trouble and rolled over from the other side of the earth slope, grabbed a handful of soil and smashed it hard at an archer beside Boyu. The mud covered the man's face and he instinctively closed his eyes. I stood up and kicked the bow in his hand with 1 foot, rushed over and shot Boyu with an arrow. Boyu reacted very quickly, and he hid from his side, and the arrows flew over his shoulders, leaving a blood mark. He looked at me angrily and yelled, "Baby, you are dead today." My heart beats as fast as if I want to explode, but I don't show any weakness in my mouth. "If you have the ability, don't hide behind people." Cheng Han burst into another wave at this time. He swept his spear and swept the 2 enemies directly, then rushed to me, panting and said, "William, can you run away? If you don't leave, we really have to explain this." I clicked and was about to pull him back, but Boya certainly didn't plan to let us go, and brought the rest of the people up again. At this moment, Ning Xian, who had been watching coldly, suddenly moved. The wooden stick in her hand slapped, and the small object on the head of the stick made a strange sound, like a signal. Then, a few unknown birds suddenly appeared from the surrounding smoke, screamed and rushed towards Boyu and the others, and instantly quarreled their shape. "Let's go!" Ning Xian shouted coldly and ran towards the north first. Cheng Han and I were not hesitant, and Lima followed. Behind him, Boyu's roar became more and more remote, and it was obviously dragged by the birds. We followed Ning Xian for more than 10 minutes, and finally left the pursuers and came to the relatively safe forest. I gasped, patted Cheng Han's shoulder, and grinned. I just had a few moments, so I didn't explode. "How did you explode so powerfully? You're just not a human being." Cheng Han also smiled and wiped his sweat, saying, "I'm almost gone, so why don't you fight to the death?" "But, Wise, what happened to us just quarrel, let's go, don't go to heart." When I clicked, the fire in my heart had long dissipated. "Okay, it's nothing between brothers. Let's be nervous next, the city of Golden is waiting." I turned to Ning Xian and wanted to ask her what happened to those birds just now, but she just glanced at me coldly and said, "Don't ask more, saving their life is important. Black Forest is ahead, be prepared, that place is more evil than the poisonous swamp." Although I still have doubts in my heart, I didn't ask anymore. This woman helped us twice. Although her attitude was as cold as ice, at least she seemed to be a friend. Cheng Han's explosion made me more confident in his ability, and Boyu was severely frustrated by us, and the feeling of pleasure in his heart was bursting. However, the road to Golden City is still long, so the challenge in the Black Forest will be even more difficult to deal with. Let's go, brother. I patted Chang'an's back and looked at the dense forest ahead with a calm look. No matter what is ahead, we have to pass. Ning Xian walked in front without saying anything, but there was a mysterious feeling on her back, which made me realize that the secrets hidden in this woman were probably no less than those in the Golden City. Chang'an and I followed Ning Xian through the edge of the poisonous swamp and finally stepped into the Black Forest. This forest is even more evil than a poisonous swamp. The trees are as tall as they can penetrate the sky. The trees are so dense that a single light cannot penetrate. The air is filled with a rotten smell, and the underfoot are full of the wrong roots, as if they can crush people at any time. The four parts were so quiet that they were scary, and occasionally there were a few strange birds screaming, which made people feel creepy. "William, why is this so stormy here?" Chang'an muttered in a low voice, holding a dagger in his hand, his eyes slamming, as if he was preparing for something unexpected at any time. "Don't scare yourself. In the Journal of Dawn, Black Forest is the last barrier of the Golden City. After this, you should be far away from the core." What I said on my lips was actually in my heart. There are not many records about the Black Forest in the diary, only mentioning ancient sacrificial fortress and hidden roads. There is also a warning: the machine in the forest is related, killing machines step by step, be cautious. What is a step by step? I held the diary in my backpack tightly, and a string was lying in my brain. Ning Xian walked in the front, her steps as stable as if she was so familiar to this place that she could not be more familiar. The wooden stick in her hand kept knocking on the ground, as if she was exploring a path, and as if she was guarding something. Her silence made me feel more and more disagreeable. This woman started to help us from the poisonous swamp, but she always hid it. Just now, the tricks of the bird attacking Boyu and the others were so strange that people couldn't figure it out. I glanced at her and tried to ask, "Ningxin, have you come here? Why did you walk so smoothly?" She didn't look back and said coldly, "Ask less and read more. If you want to survive, just be nervous." I rolled my eyes and felt even more upset. This woman has helped her, but she really deserves a beating. Chang'an came over and said in a short voice, "William, why is this person like this? I don't tell the purpose clearly to help us. I always think she has something to do. Don't worry about it first, let's talk about it when you get to the place." I replied softly, staring at her back, intending to wait until it's safe before asking clearly. The three of us walked in the Black Forest for about 2 hours, and the road under our feet became increasingly difficult. The trees and vines were intersecting like networks, and we had to climb over several protruding strange rocks from time to time. The air became hotter and hotter, and sweat was flowing down the pound, making people feel uncomfortable. Just as I was about to be able to resist complaining, Ning Xian suddenly stopped stepping and signaled us not to move. "What are you doing?" Chang'an asked with a brow, his voice feeling soft. Ning Xian didn't answer, but pointed ahead. I looked in the direction of her finger and found that there was a huge stone platform in the open space far away. The tabletop was filled with moss and vines, and there were some blurry symbols engraved on the edges, like some ancient sacrificial sutra. The surrounding trees are surrounded by the stone platform in a circular shape, making the atmosphere so strange that people's skin feel numb. It's the ancient forage mentioned in the diary. I was excited in my heart, and I hurriedly took out the diary and turned to the relevant page. There was indeed a similar stone platform on it. Next to it, I wrote, "The forage is a door, and the machine is hidden secrets, and you can understand it." I said to Chang'an in a low voice, "This place is the entrance to the Golden City, we have to unlock the machine." Chang'an pointed his head, and there was a little more excitement in his eyes. "Okay, fuck it. But how can I solve this problem? Don't make any trouble." Ning Xian turned over at this time, glanced at the diary in my hand, and said lightly, "Are you sure you want to touch this sacrificial house? This place is not something you can play with. Once the machine is touched, it is common for you to lose your life." When I heard this, my heart was nervous, but I was dissatisfied with my mouth. How can I know if I don't try? Besides, when I get here, can I still fall back? She sneered, and didn't move anymore, but just took a few steps back, as if she was planning to see how we were going to kill. I ignored her and Chenghan carefully approached the stone platform. The stone platform is about 2 meters high, with a pit on the surface and a groove in the center, as if something could be placed in it. The symbols on the edge are exactly the same as the pattern on the diary. I studied it accordingly and found that there are several movable stone blocks next to the groove, like some kind of scribble. Chenghan, please move these stones, which should be arranged in order. I pointed to the stones and said in a low voice. Chenghan clicked the head, then he started moving the stone blocks when he stepped up. He was so powerful that he moved the first block into place in a few seconds. I followed the pattern guide on the diary and instructed him to adjust the stone blocks and form a complete symbolic shape. Just as the last stone stake was in the stadium, the stone platform suddenly emitted a low shock sound, and the whole ground shook. It's done! I was delighted, but the next second, the ground around the stone platform suddenly cracked, and several black shadows shot out from the ground with a swoosh speed, so fast that they couldn't see clearly. I instinctively shouted, "Hide!" I pushed Chenghan out and lay down. Damn, what's the matter? Chenghan cried out and fell down, and heard a few swish sounds. Several sharp stone spears wiped from the top of us and pierced hard into the tree beside him. The force was so strong that the tree was bursting. If we hadn't been hiding, we would have been skewed into candied haws long ago. The machine has been touched. Ming Xian's voice came from behind, with a hurried look. Don't be upset, there are some tricks. As she fell, the vines around the stone platform suddenly seemed to be alive, rolling towards us wildly, so fast that they could not hide. My arm was sucked by a vine, and the spikes pierced directly into the skin, making me gasp in pain. Chenghan was also trapped by several vines, and he was sweating profusely, but the more he slapped, the tighter he became. William, what's wrong? Chenghan yelled with gritted teeth, his face changing. My brain was flying rapidly, and it was sweating coldly in pain, but I still shouted, don't force yourself, look for the weak. The vine must have a root, cut it off. I lowered my head and found that the roots of the vine were connected to several small holes on the side of the stone platform, as if they were controlled by a machine. I took out the dagger, endured the pain and poked it into the nearest small hole, and slapped hard. Sure enough, I heard a click sound, and several vines unwound in an instant and hung down desperately. Effective! Chenghan, poke at Xiao Kong! I shouted, continuing to deal with other vines. Chenghan also reacted, and after taking off a vine, he suddenly rushed to the stone platform, and used a dagger to attack Xiao Kong. After a few minutes, the vines were finally cut off, and we were on the ground, panting like dogs, covered in blood and soil. Damn, this is too ruthless. Chenghan wiped his sweat, and he was afraid in his voice. William, why did your brain turn so fast? If it weren't for you, we really had to explain this. I grinned. Although the pain was so painful, the feeling of pleasure in my heart was bursting. I don't read the diary for nothing. Although this is ruthless, the breaking point is also obvious. We have been swept away. Ming Xian left at this time, with a strange look in her eyes, and she said lightly, it's good. If you can survive, you are a little capable. However, this is just the first opportunity, and there are even more dangerous things in the future. Are you sure you should continue? I panted and stared at her and asked, how do you know there is something else behind it? How much do you know about this place? What is the purpose of helping us? Don't hide it anymore. Ming Xian's face changed and she was silent for a few seconds before she opened her coldly. Okay, it's okay to tell you. I help you not out of kindness, but because I also want to enter the Golden City. I have my own purpose. As for what it is, there is no need to say it now. But I can guarantee that our goals are the same. I will not harm you until I enter. Own purpose? Chenghan's eyebrows, his bad linguistic style, what do you mean by this? What's in the Golden City that is worth your adventure? Ming Xian ignored him and just looked at me, with a complex feeling in her eyes. Zhang Wei, the diary in your hand is the last key to unlocking the Golden City. I will help you to read and take you in, but after entering, we will each get what we need and will not interfere with each other. Do you answer? My heart sank, and the words of this woman made me feel more and more unfavorable. She knows too much and has unclear purpose. It is like a certain transaction to help us, but I don't have to choose now. The opportunity is getting more and more dangerous. Without her help, she may not be able to get in. I gritted my teeth and said, okay, deal. But I warn you, don't play tricks, otherwise Zhang Wei, will not be easy to mess with. Ming Xian slightly snored the corner of her mouth, and she didn't say anything, but just pointed at her head and continued to walk forward. Chen Han and I looked at each other, and we were filled with anger, but we couldn't do it, so we could only follow her to explore the way. After the stone platform machine was opened, the groove in the center suddenly sank, revealing a downward stone, like a passage leading to the underground. The air was filled with a smell of turbulence, and strange symbols were engraved on the walls on both sides of the stone, which made people feel nervous. The three of us walked down carefully, feeling worried every step, for fear of touching what mechanism to do. After walking for about 10 minutes, a huge stone door appeared at the stone level, with a huge circular pattern engraved on it, with 3 grooves in the center, as if it needed a key to open it. I looked down and found that I had painted a similar pattern, and wrote on the side, "The door of 3 keys is indispensable, and it is a dead end." I felt nervous in my heart, and Lima said to Cheng Han and Ming Xian, "This door needs 3 keys to open together. If it is wrong, it will be done. We have to find out if there are any traces nearby." The 3 of us searched near the stone gate separately. Not long after, Cheng Han found a stone piece with symbols engraved in a hidden corner next to the stone, like one of the keys. I studied the meeting diary and confirmed that this was the first key, embedded in the first groove in the door. Ming Sini found a second stone piece on the wall on the left side of the stone door. After embedded it, the stone door emitted a low sound, as if something had started. The last one is still missing. I gritted my teeth and slapped around, but after searching for a long time, I couldn't find the shadow of the third stone. At this moment, Ming Xian suddenly took out a piece of stone from her and said lightly, "I have found this a long time ago and can be used now." I was shocked in my heart and stared at her and asked, "When did you get it? Why didn't you say it earlier?" She sneered. I said, "I have my purpose. I found this piece of stone in front of the Black Forest, and I kept it for this moment. If you don't believe me, you can find it yourself now, and you may find it in a few days." I was so angry that I couldn't resist. Now the time is tight, so Boya might catch up with her at any time and had no time to argue with her. I gritted my teeth and pointed, "Okay, let's get in, but this is not over. We have to say it clearly after going in." Ming Xian ignored me and directly embedded the stone slab into the last groove. The sound of the stone gate opened slowly, revealing a pitch-black passage, and a cold chill filled the air. I was both excited and nervous, and the core of the Golden City was finally here. But we were not at ease yet. A sudden rushing sound came from behind the passage, accompanied by a familiar roar, "You can't escape. The Golden City is our holy land, and who shouldn't try to step in?" "It's Boyu," Cheng Han said in a low voice, clasped his dagger tightly, and turned around to prepare for the battle. My brain was flying and moving at a speed, and the passage was narrow. I would definitely be able to fight hard, so I had to find a way to hold them back. I lowered my head and glanced at the machine on the edge of the ice stone door and found a hidden pull rod next to the place where the stone slabs were embedded, as if I could control something. Lima, said to Cheng Han and Ming Xian, "You go in first, I will hold them back." "William, are you crazy?" Cheng Han was anxious and yelled at me, "What's the point of you alone? Don't waste, go." I pushed him and turned to look at Boyu and the others who were approaching. Boyu brought more than 10 subordinates and rushed over, and the scars on his face looked particularly shady under the dim light. As soon as he saw me, Lima roared, "Little boy, you can't fly today." I grinned and shouted, "Come on, have the ability to catch up with me." After saying that, I pulled the rod suddenly and heard a stop sound. A pile of huge rocks suddenly fell from above the stone door, smashing hard at the entrance of the passage, blocking Boyu and the others' road. The shock of the huge rock falling to the ground made the ground shake for a while. Boyu's roar was separated by the pile of stones, and he heard it very aggrieved. "Ha, be stupid." I couldn't help laughing, and the feeling of pleasure in my heart was bursting. Boyu and other guys chased us all the way, and now I am blocked outside with a machine connection, and I guess I can vomit blood. I patted the gray on my hand, turned around and ran into the passage, catching up with Cheng Han and Ning Xian. "William, you've just been so decisive." Cheng Han saw me catching up with me, patted my shoulder and smiled. "Boyu's face is probably green." "Right, brain movements are more labor-saving than exercise." I grinned, and although I was still hurt, my heart was very happy. It feels like he slapped Boyu a few times in the face. Ning Xian glanced at me at this time and said lightly, "Don't be too excited too early. The core of the Golden City is not so simple. After entering, there is even greater trouble waiting." I clicked the head, and although I still had doubts about her, it was not the time for me. There was a glimmer of light from the depth of the passage, like a lasting hope. I held the diary tightly and looked forward with a firm look. No matter what danger was ahead, I came to the Golden City. Cheng Han followed me and said in a low voice, "William, let's be proud of it next. Don't let this woman walk with her nose." "Don't worry, I have a number." I replied softly, and the calculations in my brain had begun. After entering the core area, how should we ultimately challenge Ning Xian's secrets in the Golden City? Cheng Han and I followed Ning Xian through the dark passage. The stone under our feet became steeper and steeper, and the chill in the air was scraping the skin like a knife. The glimmer from the depths of the passage became brighter and brighter, and you could hear a low sound of horns, like some huge force moving. My heart beats like a drum, my palms are covered with sweat, and my brain is full of imagination of the Golden City. The Diary of the Dynasty took me to this point, and finally I was about to see the place in the dynasty. "William, what's ahead? Why do you feel that it's not right?" Cheng Han asked in a low voice, with a little tightness in his voice, and the dagger in his hand was tightly clenched. "Don't think too much, you'll know when you get to the place." I felt a little squeezing, and actually my heart was also furious. There are so few notes in the diary about the core of the Golden City, with only one vague sentence, "The ultimate door, blood and light intertwined," and the bottom is hidden at the end of the diary. What is blood and light intertwined? I glanced down at the diary in my backpack and planned to study it carefully later. Ning Xian walked in the front, her steps as stable as if she knew this place well, and there was a strange and cold feeling on her back. Since the beginning of the Black Forest, she has hidden it. Although she has helped us several times, it always makes me feel unfavorable. What is her purpose? Why is it so enforced against the Golden City? I glanced at her and said to Cheng Han in a low voice, "Be careful when I'll be careful, this woman is not simple." Cheng Han pointed his head, his eyes filled with a warning, "Don't worry, I'm staring at her." After walking for about 10 minutes, the passage finally reached the end and the eyes suddenly opened. We stood in a huge underground cavity, with countless sharp bell stones at the top, like a sharp blade that radiated a cold light. In the middle of the hollow is a giant building with golden light, like an ancient temple, made of gold, with complex patterns carved on the surface, emitting a sense of pressure that makes people breathless. There was a deep and invisible valley around the temple, and awesome liquid flowed from the valley, like blood, emitting a pungent fishy smell. The only way to the temple is a stone bridge that is shattered and stolen. The bridge is so narrow that it can only accommodate one person. Damn, this is the Golden City? Cheng Han's eyes were straightened, and his voice was filled with shock. "William, we really found it." I swallowed, and the excitement and tension in my heart were almost blown away. This place was more shocking than I thought. The light of the Golden Temple was dazzling, but the Red Valley and the broken stone bridge were filled with a fatal danger. I lowered my head and flipped through the diary, trying to find a trace, but I found that the last few pages were all blank, with only a line of small words, the bottom is self-reflective, and the bloodlight is the guide. What does it mean? My brain was irritating, but I just told me that the key to entering the temple was in this diary. Ningxin, what's going next? I turned her head and asked her, trying to see what was going on from her face. But she just looked at the temple coldly, with a strange light in her eyes, as if there was something huge secret hidden. The stone bridge is the only way. When you pass the bridge and enter the hall, the answer is right inside. She said lightly, unable to hear any emotion in her language, so she turned around and was ready to step onto the stone bridge. Wait. I grabbed her, my eyes filled with suspicion. Why are you so familiar with this place? From the poisonous swamp to the black forest, and then here, you know more than in my diary. Who are you and why do you help us? Don't hide it anymore, let me explain it clearly now. Ning Xian stopped walking, turned to look at me, her mouth slightly sneered, and a sneer appeared. Zhang Wei, do you really think I am kind to help you? Well, there is no need for me to put it on here. She stopped her, and her eyes suddenly became cold. The city of Golden is the fate of my family. I help you just to use your diary to open the final door. Now, you are useless. What? I was shocked. Lima realized that he was not right. He took a step back and tightened his dagger. Qinghan also responded and growled, Damn, are you playing tricks on us? Ning Xian ignored him, and slapped the wooden stick in her hand, and the small objects on the head of the stick made a strange sound. The next second, a rapid sound of footsteps suddenly came from the entrance of the passage on the other side of the hollow, and Boya rushed out with more than 10 subordinates. Their faces were covered with oil, and they held long spears and bows in their hands, swaying. Boya's scar face looked particularly beautiful under the golden light. When he saw us, Lima roared, Little boy, you are indeed here. The Golden City is our holy land. Don't even want to live one of you today. My brain buzzed, and Lima turned and stared at Ning Xian. Are you and Boya the same? Your mother has cheated us from the beginning? Ning Xian sneered and said, It's okay, Boya and I have a short-term cooperation. They protect the Holy Land, I want a revenge, and our purpose is not conflicting. Your diary has helped me to this point. Now, hand it over, otherwise. She didn't finish her words, and Boya's subordinates slapped their bows and arrows, which made us look good. The fire in my heart exploded instantly, and my teeth were chewing. This woman has been acting since the beginning of the poisonous swamp, helping us get sleepy and reading diaries, all to make use of us. Now that she arrived at the Golden City, she turned her face directly, and even a dead enemy like Boya could join forces, which made people feel cold. I said to Chenghan in a low voice, We have been cheated, we can't fight hard, delay time and find opportunities to fight back. Chenghan pointed his head, his muscles tightly, and he growled, I'll fight. I still don't believe it, I can't handle them. Boya left at this time, and his scar face was filled with a sneer. Ningxin, let's hand these little kids over to us, the treasure of the saint, we'll make 50% off. He turned to look at me, his eyes as if he wanted to eat people. Zhang Wei, aren't you very capable of running? Run now, ha! I gritted my teeth and my brain flew quickly. The stone bridge is right next to it, but the bridge is too narrow and can only be passed by one person. Now it is surrounded by them, and if you run over, you will die. It's even more impossible to fight hard. There are many people on the other side, and there is also a silly woman like Ning Xian, who is watching her, and the situation is so bad that it can't be worse. I glanced down at the diary, and suddenly felt a sudden change in my heart. I thought the last sentence bloodlight leads to it, could I know if there's any hidden thread? Chenghan, hold on, I'll find a way. I said in a low voice and quickly flipped the last few pages of the diary. Although the surface was blank, I suddenly noticed that there were several clean marks on the page, as if they were plotted with a knife tip. My heart beat faster and I dipped my fingers tightly into the red liquid in the gulf next to me, and it was covered with marks. As soon as the liquid touched the paper, the marks began to shine, and a line of strange symbols and sentences appeared. The blood broke the ancient temple, the light broke the enemy, and the 3 knocks in front of the palace, which shook the universe. It's done! I was happy in my heart, and Lima understood the diary's truth. This red ape should be some ancient medium that activates hidden information in diary. 3 knocks in front of the temple mostly refer to touching a certain machine in front of the temple. I lowered my head and found an inconspicuous stone slab next to the entrance of the stone bridge, with similar symbols engraved on it, like a touch point. "Chenhan, come with me," I shouted and suddenly rushed towards the stone slab beside the stone bridge, completely ignoring the arrows shot from behind. Chenhan reacted very quickly, and Lima rushed over and helped me with a wave of attacks. He was hit by an arrow on his shoulder, and the blood instantly dyed his clothes. "William, hurry up. I can't stay for long." Chenhan roared with gritted teeth and forced the 2 enemies to retreat with their daggers, as powerful as wild animals. I didn't have time to hesitate, so I rushed to the stone slab, knelt down hard, and knocked hard 3 times. Every time I knocked, the ground would shake once. On the 3rd time, the entire cavity suddenly had a deep thorn, as if some ancient force was awakened. In the valleys around the temple, the red liquid began to boil, and countless bubbles appeared. Then, a dazzling golden light shot out from the top of the temple, illuminating the sky, making the entire hollow as bright as white. "What's going on?" Boyu screamed in surprise, his face changed drastically. Ning Xian's eyes also changed, as if she hadn't expected such a thing to happen, and even the wooden stick could not hold it. The golden light became stronger and stronger. With a low vibration, the bell stone on the top of the hollow began to collapse, and the huge stone blocks rumbled and directly pressed against Boyu and the others. A subordinate did not hide and was hit by a stone, and the scene was no longer static. Boyu roared and took the man back, but the golden light suddenly turned into countless beams of light, sweeping through the hole like a sharp blade. Each beam of light was terrifyingly damaged. Several enemies were swept by the beam and fell directly to the ground. This is the power of ancient temple. Ning Xian gritted her teeth, her voice filled with shock and unwillingness. "Zhang Wei, you actually uncovered the last secret of the diary?" "Wind." I grinned, and the feeling of pleasure in my heart was bursting out. "Do you think Zhang Wei, are so scammed? I regret it now when I play tricks on us." I stood up and shouted, "Brother, fuck them." Chenhan seemed to have been hit by chicken blood at this time, and the injuries on his shoulders did not affect his explosive power at all. He roared angrily, lifted a long spear that fell from the ground, and rushed towards Boyu's subordinates. His speed and strength completely exploded, and each blow was carrying a devastating atmosphere. With one spear, he directly swept an enemy and hit the stone wall hard. Another enemy tried to steal the picture, but was kicked in the chest by Chenhan, flying a few meters away, and fainted. "Come on. Who else?" Chenhan was covered in blood, standing in the center of the field like a warrior. His roar shocked the other party. Boyu's men were originally crowded, but with the explosion of the ancient Jingguang and Chenhan, the shape of the survivor instantly collapsed, and several survivors retreated in shock and dared not get closer. Boyu's face was blue and his scar was twisted as if he was about to drip blood. He looked at me angrily and gritted his teeth and yelled, "Baby, wait, I won't let you go." After saying that, he fled with the remaining few people and disappeared into the depths of the passage. Ning Xian was not much better at this time. Although the golden light did not directly attack her, her wooden stick was swept by the beam of light and broke into 2 pieces in an instant. Her face turned pale and retreated to the stone wall, her eyes filled with resentment. "Zhang Wei, you have ruined me. I will give you 100 times the grudge of my family." "The family's hatred?" I browed and asked a lot of doubts in my brain. "What do you mean? What does Golden City have to do with you? Tell me clearly." Ning Xian sneered, with a deep hatred in the voice, "Okay, since I have reached this point, I will let you understand it all. The Golden City is the home of my ancestors. A few hundred years ago, the ancestors of these outsiders entered here, slaughtered my tribe, and left all the sects, sealed the temple with a spell, so that our descendants could never return. I approached you just to unpack the seal with diary and revenge. Now, you have started the ancient temple and the seal was broken, but I will swallow it alone." Her words were like a heavy blow on my brain. I was stunned for a few seconds before I reacted. It turns out that Ning Xian has not been a pure sage from the beginning. Her family has a bloody hatred with the Golden City. We help us just to use the diary, break the seal, and then swallow everything alone. The truth is so shocking. I feel confused in my heart, but I don't show any weakness. Revenge? Then what's your relationship with Boyu? Your tribe members were slaughtered. Is it hard for him to be responsible for such a guard? Ning Xian's eyes flashed and she gritted her teeth and said, Boyu and the others are just chess pieces. I will use them to deal with you. When things are done, they will naturally be settled. Zhang Wei, do you think you won? Tell you, I only know how to get the treasure in the temple. Can you get in? After saying that, she turned around and rushed towards the stone bridge, as fast as a ghost. My heart was tightened, and Lima shouted, Chenghan, hold her down. You can't let her enter the temple. Chenghan pointed his head, endured the pain of his wound, and suddenly slammed over and tried to cut Ning Xian. But her body and skills were strange, and she passed Chenghan's attack in a few seconds and stepped onto the stone bridge. The bridge face was about to slam. She was careful every step, but the speed was not slow at all, and she was about to reach the entrance of the temple. William, what should I do? Chenghan yelled in anxiety. The blood on his shoulders was still flowing, and his face was so white. I gritted my teeth and my brain flew quickly. Although the ancient golden light retreated from Boyu and the others, it seemed to have no impact on Shiqiao and the temple. The only way now is to catch up with Ning Xian and not let her swallow the treasure alone. I lowered my head and glanced at the diary and found that the last sentence hidden information strength shook the world, which seemed to have a second move. Lima, said to Chenghan, you keep this side and I'll chase her. Before he could reply, I rushed to the stone bridge, and the stone slabs under my feet were shaking and might collapse at any time. The fishy smell of the red gua below sniffs came over the nose, making people feel swelling. I gritted my teeth and ran forward with force, and finally grabbed Ning Xian's arm as she was about to step into the temple. Let go! She roared angrily, turned her palm and slapped at my chest, with great force. I was beaten back and almost fell off the stone bridge, but I still grabbed her tightly and said, Want to swallow it alone? No door! You can't escape today. Ning Xian's eyes were cold, and she took out a short blade in her hand and stabbed me hard. I hid from my side, and the short blade rubbed my arm and left a blood mark. I endured the pain and punched her wrist with a backhand. The short blade fell to the ground with a clang and fell into the valley. Her face was so angry that she twisted her face and she roared, Zhang Wei, you are looking for death. At this moment, Chenghan suddenly rushed up from behind, endured the wound and climbed up the stone bridge, hugged Ning Xian's waist, and pulled her back hard. The three of us wrestled together on the narrow bridge and might fall down at any time. I gritted my teeth, and there was only one thought in my brain, I can't let her go. William, smash her. Chenghan shouted, locked Ning Xian's hands hard, and gave me a chance to create. Without hesitation, I grabbed the stone block that fell on the bridge and slammed it hard on her shoulder. She felt pain and her piercing weakened instantly. Ningxin, surrender. You can't fight alone. I gasped and said to her, it's good to revenge, and Baozong is dead, now it's all. Her eyes were full of unwillingness, but she finally stopped slamming and said coldly, okay, Zhang Wei, you won. But I tell you that the curse in the temple is still unsolved. If you go in, you will die. I ignored her threat and rushed her up with Chenghan and pushed her back to the bridge. Chenghan gasped, wiped his sweat, and grinned, William, that wave of retaliation just now, don't explode. Boya ran away, this woman was done, we can finally enter the temple. I clicked the head, and the feeling of pleasure in my heart was bursting. From absolute situation to counterattack, I first used diary to explain the ancient temple, beat Biao Boyo to help, and then worked with Chenghan to uniform Ning Xian. The surprise and excitement along the way made me feel like a real explorer. Although Ning Xian's betrayal and the truth of the family shocked me, it is not the time to confuse now, the core of the Golden City is right in front of me, and I must complete my wish. Chenghan, let's go, the secret in the temple is waiting for us to uncover. I patted his shoulder and looked calmly at the entrance of the temple with golden light flash. Chenghan grinned, although he was injured, but he was full of fighting spirit. Okay, brother, let's work together. No matter what curse it is, when will the people of the Zhang family be sad? I lowered my head and glanced at Ning Xian, who was being held back. Her eyes were still so cold, as if there was something hidden. But I ignored her again, held the diary tightly, stepped onto the stone bridge with Chenghan, and walked towards the entrance of the temple. The ultimate secret of the Golden City is about to be revealed soon. Chenghan and I stepped onto the stone bridge for the last few steps, and our heartbeat was so fast that it was about to explode. The stone slabs under the feet were shattering, and each step was like dancing on the tip of a knife. The fishy smell of the red gulf below came over the nose, making people feel sucked. Behind her, Ning Xian was blocked by us and threw it on the bridge. Her eyes were still so cold, as if she could bite someone at any time. But I had no time to pay attention to her. The entrance to the temple with golden light in front of me was like a huge group waiting for us to unfold. Willie, be careful when you go in. The evil door here is very good. Chenghan reminded in a low voice, and the wound on his shoulder was still bleeding, but he gritted his teeth and did not reveal any signs of depression. Don't worry, at this point, nothing can hold us back. I patted his back, held the diary in my hand, took a deep breath, and walked into the entrance of the temple. As soon as I entered, the scene in front of me was shocked. Inside the temple is a huge circular hall with a dome that is as high as the sky. There are countless crystals embedded in the top, emitting soft white light, illuminating the entire space. The ground is made of gold, and it is cold and irritating when stepped on it. It is carved with dense symbols and patterns, like some ancient language. In the middle of the hall, a huge crystal sacrificial fortress stood. On the sacrificial fortress was a crystal nucleus the size of a fist, emitting a faint blue light, as if it was alive, slowly rotating. A strange energy flowed from the air around me, which made my skin numb. Damn, what's this thing? Chenghan's eyes were straightened, and his voice was filled with shock. William, this place is even more impressive than outside. It doesn't feel like it can be made by humans. I swallowed, and my heart was also overwhelmed. This place is completely beyond my imagination. The core of the Golden City is not what I think is a treasure pile, but a saint full of mysterious power. The energy emitted by the crystal nucleus made me instinctively feel dangerous, as if I could swallow people at any time. I lowered my head and flipped through the diary, wanted to find a trace, and found that there was a sentence in the hidden information on the last few pages. The crystal core is the source, and the power can destroy the sky. Keep it safe, and break it will perish. What does it mean? Hold on or destroy. My brain was in a mess, but I just told me that this crystal core was definitely not a good thing. Chenghan, don't get close to that thing, it feels inconsistent. I said in a low voice, signaling him to take a few steps back. I carefully walked around the fortress and tried to find more traces. There are several vague ancient Chinese engraved on the side of the fort. Although I can't understand it, the pattern next to me tightened my heart, a human-shaped image, holding a crystal core, behind which was the collapsed sky and the burning earth, like a certain kind of destruction. William, look at this! Chenghan suddenly shouted and pointed to the wall on one side of the hall. I turned around and saw a huge relief on the wall depicting a group of people in strange costumes, lying around the crystal core, as if to treat it as a god. But the other half of the relief was these people swallowed by the light scattered from the crystal nucleus and turned into a pile of white bones. The surface was so terrifying that it made people's skin numb. This crystal core is not hidden, it is a disaster. I gritted my teeth and said in a low voice, the destruction of the destruction mentioned in the diary of the country is 80%, meaning that the power of this thing is too dangerous to let it flow out. What should I do? We finally got here, so we can't go back empty-handed, right? Chenghan browed, with unwillingness in his language. I didn't answer, my brain flew quickly. The guarding the peace in the diary may mean that it is to keep this power and not to let outsiders contact, but now Boyu and Ning Xian know that it is impossible to keep this place. Moreover, the curse that Ning Xian said is 80% related to this crystal core. Keeping it will only lead to more people killing their lives. I gritted my teeth and made a decision. Chenghan, we have won it. No matter how precious this thing is, keeping it is a disaster. It's been destroyed? Chenghan glared, and he didn't expect me to say this. William, are you sure? This thing is not simple to see. What if it's backfiring? No choice. I looked firm and held the dagger tightly. The wish of Yui is to find the Golden City, not to let me bring disaster back to the people. Let's fight. Chenghan saw my determination, and pointed a little, gritted his teeth and said, okay, I'll hear you. I'll fuck you as much as I say. I lowered my head and studied the fortress for a while, and found that there were several stone troughs under the crystal nucleus, as if something could be inserted. The force shakes the universe mentioned in the diary basically refers to using a certain method to destroy the balance of the crystal nucleus. I glanced around and found that there were several long metal spears scattered in the corner of the hall, like ancient weapons, which should be used to touch the generator. I pointed to the stone trough and said to Chenghan, you help me get a few long spears. Let's try to get it stuck and then smash the crystal core. Chenghan said nothing. Lima ran to squeeze the long spear, which was amazing, and in a few seconds he carried 3 heavy long spears. I picked up one and tried to insert it into the stone trough. Sure enough, I heard a click sound, as if I had touched something. The light of the crystal nucleus suddenly became stronger, and the energy fluctuations in the air became more intense, which made my hands numb. Effective. Continue. I gritted my teeth and inserted the remaining 2 long spears into the stone trough with Chenghan. When the last one was inserted, the sacrificial supreme suddenly burst out with a low thorn, the speed of the crystal core rotating faster, and the light around it seemed to be about to explode. My heart was tightened, and Lima shouted to Chenghan, get back and get ready to smash it. We retreated a few meters away, lifted up the stone blocks and long spears on the ground, aimed at the crystal core and smashed it hard. The stones slammed on the crystal core, making a harsh bang-bang sound, and cracks began to appear on the surface of the crystal core. But at the same time, the ground of the hall began to shake, as if the entire temple was about to collapse. The crystal on the top of the dome fell down and hit the golden ground, making a huge sound. William, speed up. I can't hold back here anymore. Chenghan yelled and stabbed the long spear hard at the crystal core. With all your strength, the cracks in the crystal nucleus became more and more, and the blue light began to flash unsteadily. I gritted my teeth, grabbed a long spear, and stabbed it with all my strength. The tip of the long spear penetrated into the crack of the crystal nucleus. With only a click sound, the crystal nucleus finally exploded, and the blue light instantly exploded, like a small explosion, directly overturning us to the ground. My ears buzzed and my eyes were so irritated that I couldn't see anything, but the feeling of pleasure in my heart was bursting out. It was done. This dangerous thing was finally dealt with by us. After the explosion, the energy waves in the hall subsided, and the fortress turned into a pile of ruins, fragments of crystal nuclei scattered all over the ground, and the blue light disappeared. The shaking of the dome also stopped. Although the temple was still shaking, it at least did not collapse. Chenghan and I were lying on the ground, panting like dogs, covered in dust and wounds, but after a glance, we laughed out at the same time. William, we really destroyed this ghost thing. Chenghan wiped the sweat from his face and grinned, it's so great this time. I can brag when I go back. What are you blowing? I laughed, got up and patted the gray on my body. The city of Golden is not a treasure, it is a victim. If it is destroyed, we are the real heroes. As the voice fell, the wall on one side of the hall suddenly cracked, revealing an upward passage, like an exit to the ground. At the entrance of the passage, you can see a piece of sunlight, as if you have pointed us out the way home. I felt a little moved in my heart and understood that this was probably the design of the temple. The exit would only open after the crystal core was destroyed. Chenghan, go, you should go back. I patted his shoulder and prepared to leave this ghost place. But as soon as he turned around, he heard a rapid sound of footsteps coming from the entrance of the temple, accompanied by a familiar roar. Zhang Wei, you have destroyed the core of the sacred land, and I want you to kill me. It's Boyu, Chenghan said in a low voice, clasped his dagger tightly, and turned around to prepare for the battle. I felt nervous, and I didn't expect this guy to catch up with him so soon. He carried several soldiers and rushed into the hall. The scars on his face looked particularly stunning under the golden light, and his eyes seemed to be about to eat people. You outsiders, you dare to destroy our sacred things. Don't even want to leave one of them today. Boyu roared, and the long spear in his hand pointed straight at us, rushing. I sneered, stood up straight, staring at him without fear. Boyu, wake up. This crystal core is not a sacred thing at all, it is a disaster. Keeping it will only save more people from their lives. Now it is destroyed, it is to save your entire tribe. Boyu was stunned, obviously not expecting that I would say this, and there was a flash of movement in my eyes. But he quickly gritted his teeth and shouted again, nonsense. This is the art of ancestors. You outsiders are not qualified to do it. Give me a shot and kill them. His subordinate Lima came up, but when the crystal nucleus exploded, their number was too small and their energy was far inferior to before. Chenghan growled and rang up and fucked. He was as strong as a beast in the head, and knocked down the two enemies in a few seconds. I didn't carelessly, and grabbed a long spear that broke on the ground, stabbed another enemy hard, and forced him back directly. Boyu, don't slap it. I shouted, what you guarded is not Baozang at all, it's a victim. Look at this temple, the crystal core has been destroyed, and the curse has disappeared. If your tribe can survive a peaceful life, why do you have to fight to the death? My words seemed to have hit a nerve in Boyu. He slammed the long spear in his hand, his eyes full of pricks. Several subordinates behind him also stopped, and they were obviously moved by me. Chenghan took the opportunity to kick the last enemy over, then stood beside me, and growled, I have heard that. Boyu, stop, don't let your people die in vain. Boyu was silent for a few seconds, and finally let out a low voice, threw down his long spear, and gritted his teeth and said, Zhang Wei, you won't win today. But I tell you, I won't forget the revenge of the sacred land. After saying that, he glared at me fiercely, turned away with his subordinates, with a sense of unwillingness on his back. I let out a long breath, and the feeling of pleasure in my heart burst out again. Boyu and the guy chased us all the way, and now they finally realized that they felt like they had slapped him a few big slaps. I patted Chenghan on the shoulder and grinned, brother, you're doing a pretty job. This guy is going to be a jerk. Wow, we are heroes. Chenghan also smiled. Although his body was covered in scars, his eyes were filled with joy. We didn't bother to turn toward the exit passage. When he passed the bridge, Ming Xian was still struck there, her face was pale and her eyes were looking at us in confusion. I stopped, glanced at her, and said coldly, Mingxin, the crystal core has been destroyed, and you have no revenge. What else do you say? She lowered her head and was silent for a few seconds, and finally opened her mouth, with a deep voice, Zhang Wei, I admit, I mistook you. You destroyed the crystal core, broke the curse, and saved the descendants of my tribe. I hate people wrong. I'm sorry. I was stunned for a moment, but I didn't expect her to apologize. Although I was still angry, I didn't pursue her again, looking at her side-like behavior. I untied her skull and said lightly, just go over what happened in the past. If you really want to save your tribe, go back and live a good life, and don't get revenge. Ming Xian was staring at her head, and there was a hint of slightness in her eyes. Without saying anything, she stood up silently and walked in the other direction. I looked at her back, and my heart was filled with silence. Along the way, although she was cheated by her, her story also made me feel deeply moved. The truth about the Golden City is far more complicated than I imagined. Willie, let's go, don't think too much. Chenghan patted my shoulder and grinned, we are the legendary explorers, so we have to have a good time when we go back. I laughed, clicked the head, and stepped into the entrance and exit passage with him. The sunlight comes in from the channel as it is warm and comfortable. We walked up the passage, the stones under our feet became whiter and whiter, and the air became fresher. After walking for about half an hour, I finally rushed out of the ground. In front of me was a vast rainforest. The sun shone through the crown and shone on my body, as if it was covering us with a layer of vigorous light. Apart from a distance, a huge waterfall descended from a height of thousands of feet high. The sound of water was steeped in the sound of the water, and the rising water fog reflected the colorful rainbow light under the sunlight, which was so shocking that people couldn't speak. This is the deep impurity we experienced when we entered the forest, but now it seems that it has completely changed, without that lunar tide, and a little more sacred. I stood by the cliff, took a deep breath, and a huge feeling of satisfaction surged in my heart. William, we really did it. Chenghan stood beside me, looking at the waterfall, and his voice was filled with emotion, from the beginning of being chased by Boyu, to the moment when he has destroyed the crystal core and saved the entire forest. It feels like he is dreaming. It's not a dream, it's our legend. I grinned and patted the diary in my backpack. My destiny has been completed, and the secret of the Golden City has been revealed. We are not for the sake of money, but to stop disasters. This is worth more than any treasure. Chenghan pointed his head and looked determined. After going back, we have to write this story so that the whole world knows that Zhang Wei and Chenghan are real explorers. A few days later, we dragged our tired bodies and finally returned to the civilized world. Just got off the plane, we were greeted not by the flowers and palms, but by the family and friends who were full of faces. But when I talked about the past, everyone was stunned and their eyes were filled with admiration. Chenghan and I became local celebrities, the media reported our adventure stories, and even a publisher came to the door to write our experiences into books. I sat in the book room at home, looking at the diary left by Yui, and my mouth was swelling. This old notebook took me through the edge of life and death, witnessed the truth about the Golden City, and transformed me from an ordinary person into a real explorer. If you look in the sky, you should be proud of me. Willie, don't be stunned. Chenghan pushed in, holding 2 bottles of beer in his hand, grinning. We have to celebrate tonight. Not everyone can do it. I took the beer, touched him for a while, and said with a smile, okay, cheers. But, brother, do you still follow me for the next adventure? Chenghan laughed, his eyes filled with struggle. Wish. As long as Zhang Wei is here, I will accompany you to the end. The foam of beer flashed under the light, and a huge satisfaction and emotion surged in my heart. Although the journey of the Golden City has ended, the legendary part of us has just begun. From now on, whether it is a forest or a desert, whether it is a trap or an enemy, I, Zhang Wei, will continue to carry Chenghan and become a never-ending remark.